Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. It's time for Friday Reads, and here's a 6-second video of this little red brick bench I'm sitting on because I think it's so cool. So please enjoy. So this is one of my new filming spots. It's this brick bench. Big square bench. It's quite attractive, really. I guess it's a bench, and it's not something I could clamp my iPad to, so now I've got my tripod, and I did my tome topple confusion rant on this thing, but I wanted to let you have a look at it. Here it is. So I'm out here in the park and it's pretty cold, so this might be a short Friday Reads. I've just made one other video and getting a little cool. Maybe too many more of these outdoor videos before it's just too damn cold. I have almost no notes for this Friday Read, so this is going to be a hodgepodge. But I guess I'll start with some comments on some literary gossip. Not gossip, but just literary news. That's actually, the first one is not even news. Just stuff. I have some stuff to talk about, okay? One is a famous, much admired, and probably much loved booktuber. Neil Griffiths has a new novel out. I don't think this will be news to anybody watching my channel, but if it is, please go check out his channel. I'll put it in the show notes. And it's not his debut, but it's his new novel called As a God Might Be. And I've heard of him talking about it a little bit, and maybe on a couple other channels. I think Steve Donahue got a copy in the mail. But I was nervous, so this is the issue. This is not personal about him because it's just not. It's just a good chance to talk about the larger general issue, which is I'm nervous about reading books by friends, by fellow booktubers, anybody that I have a personal relationship with, or I don't have a personal relationship with Neil Griffiths. Don't let me start that rumor. But I don't want to feel constrained in talking about my true, authentic reactions to a book, so I would shy away from reading a book by a booktuber for that reason, because I cannot, at this curmudgeonly stage of my life, pretend to like something I don't, or give a falsely positive review. So rather than deal with that uncomfortable situation, I would avoid reading it. Or, if I read it and I didn't like it, I would not register my reading of it on Goodreads. I would not talk about it on here or on Litsy. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Okay? I had an experience of that with a Litsy friend who asked if he could send me his novel. And I said exactly what I just said to you. I said to him, I'm very curious to read your novel. I'm sure it's wonderful, but if I don't like it, I will never tell you that I've read it. So please send it. And I sent him a book, not my book. I don't have a book, but a book that I was really happy to trade him for. And I said, send it. I will read it someday. I won't put it on Goodreads or Litsy until I finish, and if I don't like it, I will never mention it online ever, and you must agree never to ask me about it. And if you ask me about it, and I've read and bailed or read and hated it, I will always lie to you and say, oh, I haven't got to it yet. So under those conditions, yes, please send it. So I've got it on my shelf, and hopefully I like it and I'll tell the world about it, but I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, so I'm willing to amp up the neurotic behavior to make sure that I don't hurt anybody's feelings. So I was and I also didn't think, and here I'm being honest, not about Neil Griffiths' novel, As a God Might Be, but just what I'd heard about it. The premise of it sounded like it was pretty theologically oriented, and that isn't usually something that I'm interested in. But, so this is bringing it down to what I saw on BookTube this week. Kate Armstrong on her channel, and I'll link her review in the show notes, gave a wonderful review that totally made me think, oh, I have to at least try it. So I downloaded the Kindle preview of the first chapter or whatever, and it's wonderful. It's starting out wonderfully. So I am going to read it, but I will still follow my own neurotic protocol that it won't be till I know that I can at least say it was good, if not fantastic, that I will admit to the fact of reading it anywhere online. But I love being talked out of my own preconceptions about books like that, and Kate Armstrong did a wonderful job, and like I say, I downloaded the free Kindle preview, and yeah, it sounds really good. So I want to talk about that. And Nicola Barker's novel, Happy, her parenthetically rendered title, Happy, won the Goldsmiths Prize this week. And I haven't read it, but I've heard many people talk about it, and I think I might like it. So I'm going to order a copy, I think, and maybe try to read it before the end of the year. I don't have anything more than that to say about it. I have to admit that I'm less excited about the winner of the National Book Award. And again, I have preconceptions, so it's, he was kind of cute. What was I talking about? Jesmond Ward's Sing on Buried Sing. What a beautiful title. And I've heard it's a Marmite book. My friends on Goodreads, Litzy, and I haven't heard anything negative about it on BookTube. But I heard a lot of really negative reviews and really positive reviews. All the reviews, extremely positive, extremely negative, have been by readers that I tend to really agree with. So I thought, I'm not going to bother trying it, because the negative stuff that was said about it, that the narrative voice didn't really vary from character to character, and the ghost stuff was annoying, sounded like things that would turn me off of a novel, and I didn't like Jesmond Ward's Salvage the Bones. I bailed on it. It seemed to be a book about dogs. And I just was bored. So I bailed. So I think maybe Jesmond Ward is not for me, but I also think the other 50% of the reviews I've heard by readers who I deeply respect have been glowing. I'm still thinking whether I'll try it or not. And that's all for gossip. So let me just talk about what I've been reading. I didn't lug the Polish novel with me, because I lugged quite a few books out here, but I'm still really enjoying it. Oh, I was actually going to read an excerpt from that. Yeah, I'm enjoying it very much, and I'm going to insert a short excerpt just to show you how good the writing is, the translation by David Welsh. So here it is. I'll paste it in later. Here it is. The first customer entered. It was a woman in a cape with a kerchief around her head, who wanted a brass spittoon. Ignacy bowed and offered her a chair, while Lisecki disappeared behind the cupboards and came back after a while to hand her the desired object with a dignified gesture. Then he wrote the price of the spittoon on a bill, passed it over his shoulder to Rosetsky, and retired behind his counter with the air of a banker who has just donated some 1,000 rubles to charity. The first few chapters are showing the middle and lower class characters, their world, the world of this haberdashery and grocery shop in the middle of Warsaw in the 1870s. Just masterfully done. Like, I can close my eyes and walk into that shop and know where everything is and feel the emotional atmosphere of that shop. Like, it's just really well done. And now I'm into the chapters where the upper class noble family is being introduced, and also masterfully done. I am noticing the conversation that they're having. This is very interesting. I think this just shows how good the translation is, because the conversation between the upper class characters reminds me of 19th century fiction, whereas the conversation between the lower class seemed more modern because they're talking like real people talk. That's really interesting. So there's that. This is still just incredible. Just absolutely wonderful. And that's all I'm going to say. I've expressed some tentative reservations about it, but at the moment I have none. Because I finished a couple shorter books yesterday and this morning, I have started 2 shorter books as well. One is this one, The Lauras by Sarah Taylor. I've read the first chapter, the first 20 pages. I'm not sure about the writing. The story is interesting. The young mother takes her 13-year-old daughter and leaves her husband after a fight one night, and then their mother and daughter are on the road. And the characters are very interesting. Not sure about the writing yet, but it's still early, and the writing is so different from one of the books that I just finished and loved, The Lost Garden by Helen Humphreys, that I think that's all. I just have to get into this prose, but so far. Let me invite you all to check out a booktube channel that's new to me, Literary Prints, not like princess prints, but like photographic prints, literary prints. Wonderful booktuber from Indonesia who's very into Japanese fiction, and we've become literary soulmates in just a few short days, and we are doing a buddy read of this Tanizaki novel. I read his Junichiro Tanizaki. I read his The Makioka Sisters just a month or so ago, and Literary Prints talked about picking this book up on one of her recent videos, and so I picked it up too, and we're buddy reading it next week. I've actually already started it just this morning. Now, Tanizaki was really hentai in terms of his literary preoccupations. Hentai means perverted. So he loves writing about S&M and sexual this and sexual that, but none of that made its way into his greatest novel, or what other people say. It's the only one I've read. Makioka Sisters is very tame sexually. There's nothing really sexual in it. But all of his other books are just volcanically sexual in preoccupation, including this one. So this one is a diary of a husband complaining about his sex life with his wife. I don't know if it's only complaining, but processing. What a horrible word to use in the literary context, but that is what many people do in their journals, process, in the hopes that she might be reading it. So that's the premise. I'm just read the first chapter, and the prose is quite delightful. So next week I will be starting another novel, one that I mentioned on a 10 books tag a couple of weeks ago. Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows. I think I'm not quite getting the title right, but I'll put the thing up here. And I'm doing a buddy read of that, I think starting next week, with Claire Reads. Is that her channel name? I know her name is Claire, but I can't get the channel names quite right in my head, and didn't make very many notes today, but I'm really excited about that. I have now read 2 stories in Adam Johnson's Fortune Smiles. And the first story, I've already mentioned, was just amazing. I didn't really care for the second story, which is set in the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana. And it was a long story. It was almost like a novella, but it had too much plot going on for its length, and I was kind of confused a lot of the time, and I didn't really feel connected with the characters. But regardless of that, the final paragraph was achingly beautiful. I'd say it's the perfect ending for a short story, one of the best endings of a short story I've read in years, even though I didn't really care for the story. And the conclusion is not a spoiler, so if you haven't read the story and you're worried that it's going to spoil the story, it doesn't. But just listen to this. Climbing the Lake Charles Bridge, Nonk can see the muscles and elbows of the petrochemical plants, their vent stacks blowing off maroon blue flame. Below are the driven edges of a brown tide, and everywhere is the open abdomen of Louisiana. At the top of the bridge there is no sign of what happened here, not a sippy cup in the breakdown lane, not a little shoe. Nonk looks out on the city. It looks like one of those end times Bible paintings where everything is large and impressive, but when you look close, in all the corners, some major shit is befalling people. Nonk shifts into fourth, and even doing that feels like a development, like it's the first step in a plot so big you can't imagine. The smallest thing now feels like a development, a turn signal. You kiss your son on the crown of his head, and no doubt, no denying, that's a serious development. You turn the ignition and drop the van in gear, and you know this is no ordinary event. You crest the Lake Charles Bridge, headed west with the wind in your eyes, and even flipping down your sunglasses feels charged with forever. The last thing I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about it very briefly because I'm getting cold, is slow reading. I mentioned on my bloated vlog the other day that I've got a lot of tomes on the go and that I don't seem to want to push myself to read them more quickly. For example, the Proust, the Polish novel, I don't think I'm going to finish this year, and that feels right. But I've also got the Sunjeev Sahota book, The Year of the Runaways, and I've been reading it for over a month, and I'm only 30% of the way in. And I'm thinking of trying to give myself a push to finish it and the John Boyne novel, which I'm about 25% of the way in, by the end of next week, just to start some new books. I don't know if I can do it, and I don't know if I want to do it, but I am going to try. But I do think it's probably going to fail because I just seem to be a slow reader. I read like I said on the other video, I read a lot, but when it's a really good book, and especially if it's a long book, I naturally feel compelled to slow right down and just read it very slowly. So I'm going to try speeding up a bit, reading 50 or 100 pages, not 100, 50 pages of each a day and see if I can finish them up. But I think that my readerly soul will resist completely, so I will report back. That is my Friday reads. What are you up to reading-wise or otherwise this lovely Friday? I don't know if it's lovely where you are. I saw on Facebook in my hometown, my home province of Saskatchewan, they're having blizzards. So it's not lovely everywhere, but I hope it's lovely reading-wise in your world. Have a great weekend.